Okay, in the last video, I mentioned that I was going to do the circlet as the next piece, and that is what I'm going to do. This particular one is going to require a little bit of trial and error in getting the proportions exactly right. And if you ever had to do something similar to this later, just know that you might have to play around with it a little bit to get it correct. The other thing that it's going to need is me accessing that center point that I used to help rotate the circlet around. I'm going to need that again. So I'm going to turn off my eagle bit so that, and I'm talking about the part that I drew specifically, it's just a little bit easier to see the center point of those circles when I don't have all that extra stuff layered over there. And I am going to also do the Command Y part. The problem with that becomes that I can't tell exactly where the outline goes because I can't see that piece at the same time. It's an easy enough fix, but just know that that is something that I will have to accommodate in a couple minutes. But it's this center point that becomes really, really critical. The star tool is what we're going to make use of. If you look at the reference image, it's a wavy line that goes all the way around. It's about the same number of lumps and bumps as my star. So it's either 51 or 52. I'm just going to sort of call it 51 because that's how many stars that we had. And I'm going to make these two pieces match. So by that I mean I'm creating a star that has 51 or 52 points. So here we go. Back to the Command Y. I'm going to grab the star tool. I'm going to click right at that center point. This is what I was talking about before when I said I need to be able to see it. And it's the radius 1 and radius 2 setting. I don't know exactly what they need to be. So this is part of where the trial and error come in. They can be scaled afterwards. It's not a huge problem either way. But I've got to proceed from here. So I'm going to call the first one 3 inches. It's probably not going to be big enough, but it's something I can start from. It's converting mine to points because I didn't bother to make sure I was in inches when I created my new blank document. It's fine that it's converted to points, but if it bugs you, just know that you would want to fix that when you establish your original document. And then my radius 2 setting needs to be slightly less than the radius 1 because I need it just a little bit smaller. So, and I'm trying to keep the phone from being annoying. Sorry about that. I'm going to do this real quick. I've got family texting me. All right, so anyway, I'm going to do 2.95 inches because that's just a tiny bit smaller than the other one. And I'm going to do 51 points. And you can see that I get a star that is considerably too small based on the fact that it's inside my concentric circles, but it has about the look that I was after. So I can delete this one and type it in bigger as my second value, or I can scale this one upward. And that's largely a matter of personal preference. I'm holding down my Shift and my Alt so that I know that I'm going to do this proportionally, and I've scaled it upward now, and I'm going to do Command Y to get back out there to my actual image where I have a reference. Now, I can tell my inner and outer radius numbers were not quite right either. They needed to be slightly more different. And I'm going to switch this over to stroke so that you can see it. It's not quite enough of a hump on those. So I am going to delete this one. I know that it needs to be a little bigger and that my inner and outer numbers need to be slightly further apart. And I'm going to do the Command Y or Control Y again so I can really, really get at that center point easily. Single click, and so 3 wasn't big enough. 3, I'm going to call it 3 1/4. 3.25 inches is going to be my outer radius, and 0.05 is the difference I did last time. So I did 5/100ths of an inch, which is obviously really small. I think I might try a 0.1, a tenth of an inch this time. Different. So I did 3.25 for the outside. I'm going to do 3.15 for the inner, and I'm doing the quotation mark or typing an inch since mine is in points. Otherwise, right now, it's going to convert that over to points, which is fine again. And then I need 51 points proper on the star. So I'm going to click OK, and it wasn't quite big enough, but it's better than it was previously. I can tell that already. I'm going to do Command Y so I can switch back out. And again, either I draw it larger or I scale it upwards holding my Shift and Alt or Option. All right, I've scaled it upward, and that's pretty darn good right now. So that looks kind of excellent, actually. That translates to, for anybody that is curious, a width of 4.94 points. I don't know the inch equivalent off the top of my head, but again, it's a little bit larger than 3 1/4. So you could, again, manually scale it or try it a little bit bigger. All right, now this is not exactly like the sample image for one main reason. First of all, okay, a couple of main reasons. It's not red, which it needs to be, and it is not thick enough. So both of those things need to happen to make it more consistent. So I have made it red and I have made it thicker, but it's pointy and the sample image is rounded. So how do we do this? How do we fix it? Well, I'm going to turn off the source image now because I've got it in the correct place. Now it's a matter of getting it to be curvy instead of pointy. It is not a difficult process, but it's a little weird. So once you've got it, the correct color, the correct stroke weight, you're going to select it. You're then going to switch from the black arrow to the white arrow. And you're going to hold down your Shift key and you're going to click on any point on this wavy line, on this pointing line. Any point. As soon as you do that, you get a totally separate menu along the top. This is what we need. And it allows you to convert any point that you have selected from a corner point to a curve point quickly. But it won't let you do it if the whole object is selected. So it's kind of weird that way. So I have all but one of my points selected. And I'm going to click on the Convert Selected Anchor Point to Smooth option. It's the one that sort of shows a little bit of a point in the middle with sort of a curved line. I'm going to click there. Everything else is smoothed out with the exception of the one point I didn't have selected. I'm going to go and select that dude that was left all by himself and then click on the rounded thing. And now all of mine are nice and wavy. They're not going to perfectly match up to the sample image, but they're pretty good. And it's because the ones in the sample get different shaped toward the bottom. But this totally meets the requirements for the assignment if you go with this approach that I've just shown you here. It's consistent. It gives you the 51 points. They're the right weight. And trying to draw this manually is truly hideous. And you wouldn't want to do that. You would want to use whatever mechanical means are possible. This is the way to do it. So again, star, really similar inner and outer radius, 51 points. And then you convert all of those points from corner points to curve points using the option that I just demoed. And that gets you this piece. So if I turn the center part on again, I get this. The only thing I lack now is the text and other elements that are happening within the blue band, and I'm going to do that in the last video.